On a cold Athenian night in 431 BCE, as the city braced for war, a single whisper spread through the streets. They are gone. Not dead. Not arrested. Not exiled. Gone. As if the earth itself had swallowed them. They were known only by a name few dared to speak aloud. The Helican Circle. A small, secretive brotherhood of philosophers who claimed to possess a fragment of wisdom older than Homer, older than the Olympian gods, older even than the first written laws of Greece. Their last known gathering was said to have taken place beneath the silver glow of the moon at Delphi, inside a chamber forbidden to the public. Witnesses swore they saw torches, heard chanting, and felt a trembling beneath the stones, as if something beneath the sanctuary was waking. And then, by dawn, every member of the Helican Circle, 13 philosophers of Athens, Thebes, and Corinth, had vanished without leaving behind a single trace. Clothes remained. Scrolls remained. Footsteps reached the entrance, and then simply stopped. The Pythia refused to speak of it. The priests burned offerings in silence. And rumors spread like wildfire. Some said the circle unlocked a secret that should never have been touched. Some said they were taken by the gods. Some said they opened a door beneath Delphi that led to a place no mortal should ever see. But the strangest part came later. A parchment discovered in the home of one of the missing men, Lycanios of Athens, a philosopher known for his radical theories. The parchment contained only a single sentence, scribbled in haste. Truth is the most dangerous path, and we have stepped too far. That sentence, and the disappearance that followed, marked the beginning of a mystery Athens wanted to forget, and history tried to bury. But this story does not begin with their disappearance. It begins months earlier, with a forbidden idea, a dangerous gathering, and a prophecy the circle believed was hidden beneath the stones of Delphi. A prophecy that claimed there was a truth before the gods. And the moment the circle tried to uncover it, their fate was sealed. The night before they vanished, the leader of the Helican Circle, the enigmatic philosopher Crinios, made a chilling announcement to his followers. Tomorrow, we descend. And not all who enter will return as men. What exactly did he mean? What did they discover beneath the oracle's temple? And why did every man who heard Crinios speak that night willingly walk toward doom? The answer lies in what the circle called the first philosophy, a doctrine whispered to be the origin of every myth, every god, every law of the ancient world. And it is this forbidden knowledge that led to their final meeting, a night now erased from every official record of Delphi. Because the truth they sought was not merely old, it was something Athens feared more than war itself. The story of the Helican Circle truly begins in Athens, months before their final journey to Delphi. At first glance, they were simply thinkers, respected, even admired. But beneath the surface, they were something far more dangerous. A collective of philosophers who believed the entire foundation of Greek religion was built on a lie. Their meetings were held in a hidden room beneath the library of Themistocles, a chamber sealed by a bronze door that only Crinios possessed the key to. The chamber was lit by a single oil lamp and decorated with crude carvings from the Mycenaean age, relics Crinios insisted were older than the gods themselves. On the evening that changed everything, Crinios placed a stone tablet at the center of the room. It was cracked, burned at the edges, and engraved with symbols no one could identify. The circle stared at it in silence. This, Crinios whispered, was found beneath the old ruins of Helican, buried under layers untouched since the Age of Kings. One member, the skeptical Damon of Corinth, leaned in. These markings, they don't match any script used in Greece. Crinios nodded. Because they are older. Much older. This is what our myths call the age before memory. Then, pointing to a series of repeating symbols, he uttered the sentence that would seal all their fates. This speaks of a truth the gods themselves wished hidden. The room tensed. For a moment, it felt as if the lamplight dimmed. The circle wasn't a cult. They never intended to challenge the gods or unravel the world's order. But Crinios had a way of making the impossible sound inevitable, and the forbidden feel like destiny. He revealed that this tablet was linked to an even more ancient artifact rumored to lie beneath Delphi, in a sealed chamber known only in myth as the Hollow Sanctuary. According to scattered legends, this chamber wasn't dedicated to Apollo, but to something far older. Crinios believed the oracle knew this. He believed the priests guarded it. And he believed the truth hidden there was the final piece of a lost philosophy, what he called the first law of thought. At first, the circle resisted. Delphi was sacred ground. Tampering with its secrets was punishable by exile, or worse. But then, the seismic tremors began. For 3 consecutive nights, Athens felt small shocks beneath the earth. Not large enough to destroy buildings, but strong enough to rattle shelves, tip over amphorae, and send whispers through the agora. To most Athenians, the tremors meant one thing: Apollo was displeased. To Crinios, the tremors meant something entirely different. "They're not from the heavens," he said. "They're from Delphi." When Damon demanded proof, Crinios revealed a second piece of evidence: a scroll smuggled from Delphi by a sympathetic priest. The priest had risked his life to deliver it, claiming he could no longer hide what he had seen beneath the sanctuary. The scroll contained only a small fragment, but it was enough. The chamber shakes when the ancient breath returns. Those 5 words pushed the circle past the point of doubt. If something beneath Delphi was awakening, they had only one chance to reach it before the priests sealed the area completely. And if it truly held the origins of Greek thought, a truth older than myth, they believed the world deserved to know it. But there was another detail the priest had warned of, a detail Crinios concealed until it was too late. The chamber, according to the priest, was protected by an oath, a sacred rule, a condition for anyone who dared to enter. Who descends must not speak what he sees, or his mind will turn against him. The circle brushed it off as superstition. Philosophers feared no myth. But there was a reason the priest trembled as he delivered the scroll. A reason Crinios never spoke of what the priest had seen inside the chamber. And as the circle prepared for their final journey, as they gathered torches, water skins, copied notes, and the heavy stone tablet that started everything, one member, Theron of Thebes, pulled Crinios aside. "There is something you're not telling them," Theron whispered. Crinios didn't deny it. Instead, he looked toward the mountains, toward Delphi, almost as if he could see the chamber from miles away. "The truth was never meant to be harmless," Crinios said. "But harmless truths do not survive thousands of years." It was the closest he ever came to admitting fear. 3 days later, the circle set out. 13 men on foot, cloaks pulled tight against the cold, carrying with them the belief that they were walking not just toward a discovery, but toward the origin of knowledge itself. The people of Athens watched them leave in silence. No one knew why they traveled in secret. No one knew what they sought. But one old woman, a vendor near the city gates, muttered a warning as they passed. "Men who chase the gods' shadows return as strangers." None of the circle responded. They continued toward Delphi, unaware that the priests had sensed their approach, and sealed the hollow sanctuary in preparation. They also did not know that someone was following them. A shadow, hooded and silent, walked behind them at a distance, careful never to be seen. Someone who knew of the chamber's existence long before Crinios did. Someone who had been waiting for the circle to make this mistake. And on the night the circle reached the outskirts of Delphi, as they lit their final campfire, Crinios noticed footprints that didn't belong to any of them. He did not wake the others. He did not reveal the fear tightening his chest. He simply whispered to the darkness, "So, you found us." The shadow did not answer. But the silence that followed felt like the beginning of something the circle could not escape. Something already moving beneath Delphi. The Helican circle reached Delphi just before dawn. The sanctuary slept beneath a blanket of mist, the marble columns of the temple of Apollo cutting through the fog like pale ghosts. Even the shepherds avoided the slopes at this hour, a subtle warning that Crinios ignored. The priests claimed Delphi was the center of the world, the place where the gods first touched the earth. Crinios believed the opposite. "That is what they want you to think," he murmured to the circle. "The myth hides what came before the gods." But as they climbed the stone pathway toward the temple, the circle felt something strange beneath their feet. A pulse, faint but steady, like the heartbeat of the mountain itself. When they reached the courtyard, They expected guards, priests, resistance. Instead, the temple stood open, silent, abandoned. Damon frowned. This is wrong. Delphi is never empty. Crinios didn't answer. He was staring at the temple doors, both wide open, both unmanned. Torchlight flickered inside, though no flames could be seen. It was as if someone, or something, had been expecting them. Inside the temple, the air was thick with the scent of burned laurel leaves. The walls trembled faintly, almost as if reacting to their presence. The circle moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing beneath the high ceiling. Then they saw her. The Pythia, seated on her sacred tripod, but slumped forward, motionless, as though sleep had claimed her in mid-ritual. Her lips were stained black with fumes, her fingertips blue. Theron stepped forward. She's alive, he whispered, placing 2 fingers on her neck. Weak, but alive. But something else caught his attention, a piece of parchment curled in her hand. He gently pried it free and unfolded it. In jagged handwriting it read, "You must not free what sleeps." The circle exchanged uneasy glances. Only Crinios seemed unaffected. "Fear is the language of those who protect power," he whispered. We continue. Behind the Pythia's chamber, hidden by a tapestry, was a narrow stairway that spiraled downward into the earth. It was older than the temple itself, carved in a style none of the circle recognized. "This must be it," Damon whispered. The entrance to the hollow sanctuary. The deeper they descended, the colder the air became. The torch flames shrank into thin, trembling slivers, as if afraid to burn. The walls were covered with ancient markings, spirals, intersecting circles, and a repeated symbol etched again and again, a single eye enclosed in a ring. The symbol from the Helican tablet. They continued downward until the tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. It was breathtaking and terrifying. At its center lay a circular pit, surrounded by stone pillars carved with the same strange symbols. As they approached the pit, the ground quivered. Crinios raised his torch. Below them, in the darkness of the pit, something shifted. Theron inhaled sharply. "What is that?" The torchlight revealed the faintest outline of a massive stone slab, pulsing with faint, rhythmic vibrations. It looked like a sealed door, but unlike any door crafted by human hands. The stone surface moved subtly, as if breathing. And then the circle heard it, a whisper. Low, distant, unintelligible. Not from a human throat. Lycanios clutched his cloak. "It's speaking." "No," Crinios said. "It's remembering." Before anyone could question what he meant, a voice echoed from the shadows behind them. "You were warned not to come here." The circle spun around. Torches lifted. Hearts pounding. From the darkness emerged a man in priestly robes, but stripped of all official symbols. His face was pale, his eyes sunken, his hands trembling as though carrying a weight too heavy to bear. Crinios recognized him instantly. The sympathetic priest who had smuggled the scroll to Athens. But the sight of him now was horrifying. He looked as if he hadn't slept in weeks. As if every step he took cost him a piece of his sanity. "Leave," the priest whispered. "Seal this place. Forget what you seek. For the sake of Greece, forget it." Crinios stepped forward. "You told me yourself. Something ancient stirs beneath Delphi. Something tied to the first philosophy." The priest shook his head violently. "I told you that to save you. The hollow sanctuary was sealed for a reason." He pointed to the breathing slab. "That is not a door. It is a warning. A tomb for a truth that should never be known." Theron swallowed hard. "What lies beneath it?" The priest closed his eyes, as if trying to forget the memory. "A mind," he whispered. "Older than Apollo. Older than the Titans. A consciousness buried by the first humans who feared it." Crinios stepped closer. "What consciousness?" The priest's voice cracked. "The one that gave humans their first thought." The chamber vibrated beneath their feet. The circle froze. The breath of the mountain grew louder. "Thought did not begin with us," the priest said. "The first humans believed ideas came from outside, from something that spoke through their minds. When they realized its power, they imprisoned it here, beneath Delphi. They believed the oracle could hold it dormant." His eyes widened. "But lately, it has begun to wake." A deep tremor shook the chamber. Dust rained from the ceiling. Damon grabbed Crinios. We must leave. Now. But Crinios stood frozen, staring at the stone slab pulsing below them, mesmerized. This is it, he whispered. The origin of consciousness, the first philosophy. The priest lunged forward. You do not understand. Once its voice reaches you, it does not leave. It devours thought, replaces it with its own. But it was too late. The stone slab shifted. Just a fraction. But enough. Enough for a single, cold breath to escape from beneath it. A breath that extinguished every torch in the chamber. Darkness swallowed them whole. And in that darkness, the circle heard a voice. Soft, calm, ancient. A whisper that slid into their minds like a blade. You opened the path. The ground split open beneath them. Their screams echoed into the abyss. The first mind had awakened. Darkness. Not the ordinary kind. Not the absence of light. But a thinking darkness. One that pressed against the circle's minds as though it were studying them. The torches were dead. The fissure widened beneath their feet. Stone crumbled like sand. Damon shouted, Crinios! Get back! But Crinios didn't move. He stood at the edge of the pit, eyes wide, face pale, as the whispering voice seeped into the chamber like mist. It wasn't sound. It was thought. A single intrusive idea blooming inside every mind at once. I remember you. Theron clutched his head, gasping. It's inside my thoughts. The sympathetic priest fell to his knees, trembling violently. It speaks in memories, he cried. Not words. It uses what you already know. The unseen presence slid deeper, unraveling the edges of their consciousness. Each man felt something ancient turn its gaze upon him, not with eyes, but with intention. Crinios whispered into the dark, barely breathing. Is this the first mind? The chamber answered with a pulse, a vibration that shook their bones. The stone slab beneath the pit shifted again, just enough for a thin crack of shimmering blue light to leak out. Not light from fire or sun, but something colder, older, something that felt like the memory of light. Lycanios screamed first. His torch dropped from numb fingers. He staggered backward, palms pressed against his face, shaking his head violently. It knows everything I've thought, everything I've hidden, he cried. It's rewriting it. His voice choked. His eyes rolled back. His body collapsed. The priest grabbed Crinios by the cloak. This is what I warned you. The first mind does not speak, it rewrites. But Crinios, breath trembling, didn't move. He wasn't afraid. He was enthralled. Don't you see, he whispered. This is the origin of consciousness. The first thought humanity ever borrowed. The voice slithered through the chamber again, colder now. You came seeking truth. But truth is not yours. The floor trembled. Dust spun into the air. Something beneath the slab scraped upward, deliberate, slow, intelligent. Damon shouted, We have to go. Now. But Crinios stepped closer to the pit, raising his hand as if greeting an old friend. The priest lunged to stop him, but froze mid-motion, as though his body had been seized by invisible hands. His voice broke. It's touching my mind. No, not again. He fell to the ground, convulsing. The chamber pulsed. Each time the slab shifted, the circle felt their own thoughts slip further from their grasp, as though strings inside their minds were being retuned by an unseen hand. Theron shouted, Crinios! You must close the pit. Crinios turned slowly, his face blank, his eyes unfocused. It wants, he whispered. It wants, what does it want? Damon demanded. Crinios blinked. His voice came out in a tone that was not his. You. A long, shuddering crack tore through the slab. Blue light erupted from below. The circle staggered backward, shielding their faces. The chamber shook so violently that pieces of the ceiling crashed to the ground. The vibrations felt like a heartbeat, ancient, awakening, impatient. Theron shouted above the roar. We must seal it. Where is the mechanism? Where? But Crinios raised a hand. And every tremor stopped. Not because the mountain calmed, but because something beneath it was listening. Crinios stepped to the edge of the pit. His voice, or whatever now controlled it, spoke with dreadful calm. The first mind was bound here by the first humans. They feared what it gave them. They feared the origin of thought. But thought cannot be imprisoned forever. Theron backed away. Crinios, this isn't you. But Crinios stared into the pit with devotion. His voice changed, deeper, layered, distorted. Consciousness was never yours. It was gifted, then stolen. You are but echoes of a larger mind. The blue light intensified, swallowing the chamber, swallowing their shadows. Damon lunged to pull Crinios away, but Crinios turned, lifting a single finger. Damon froze. His limbs locked. His voice died in his throat. His eyes widened in terror. The first mind had seized him like a puppet. The priest, sobbing, crawled backward. You brought it awake. The binding is broken. It will take every mind it touches. It will. The voice cut him off, filling every skull. You will return to me. The slab cracked completely. A wave of blue energy burst outward. One by one, the Helican circle collapsed, writhing, gasping, choking, as their thoughts were overwritten, erased, rewritten by the awakening intelligence beneath Delphi. All except Crinios. He stood still, calm, illuminated by the glow, a silhouette against something that should never have seen light. And as the chamber split open around them, as dust and screams filled the air, Crinios whispered, with the last piece of his true mind, "Forgive me." The first mind rose. The circle fell, and Delphi trembled with the birth of a truth Greece would never be allowed to remember. The chamber did not collapse. It sealed itself. As the last echo of the circle's screams dissolved into the blue light, the fissures in the stone floor began to close. Not by chance, not by nature, but by command. The first mind, now fully awakened, folded the earth around itself like a cloak. Theron, barely conscious, crawled toward the steps. His vision blurred. His ears rang. He tasted iron and dust. Behind him, the pulsing radiance dimmed, as if satisfied. He forced himself to look back. Crinios still stood at the center of the chamber, but he was no longer a man, at least, not in the way the others remembered him. His posture was perfect, unnaturally still, his face serene. The blue glow clung to him like a second skin. Crinios, Theron whispered. For a heartbeat, he hoped the man he admired, the teacher who challenged gods, the philosopher who believed truth belonged to all people, might still be inside. Crinios turned. His eyes glowed faintly. And then he spoke, not with his own voice, not with the stolen, layered tone the first mind had used before, but with a calm, almost gentle whisper. It is done. He stepped toward the pit, and the stone opened just wide enough for him to descend. The blue light welcomed him, curling around his body like wisps of living smoke. Theron felt something break inside him. And oh, Crinios, his voice cracked, swallowed by the darkness. But Crinios did not look back. With a final step, he lowered himself into the pit, into the radiance, into the presence that had devoured the minds of his brothers. The stone closed behind him like a lid. And then there was silence. A silence so complete that Theron felt as though the world had exhaled. Only one thought remained in his mind. A thought he could not tell if it was his or something whispered to him in the chaos. Truth returns. He didn't remember climbing the stairway. He didn't remember the priests finding him on the temple floor. He didn't remember being carried through the sanctuary, or the shouts, or the fear spreading like wildfire when he mumbled incoherent fragments. But he remembered the final words the sympathetic priest whispered before he died. Seal it. Burn every record. Forget their names. And Delphi did exactly that. The priesthood declared a sacred plague. The chamber was permanently locked. Every surviving fragment of the Helican circle, scrolls, letters, teachings, was confiscated or burned. The 13 philosophers were declared dead in an accident. Their families were told a rockslide took them. Athens mourned, then forgot. Only one man knew the truth, a truth too unbearable to speak. Theron returned home a shell of himself. He avoided crowds. He refused students. At night, he woke gasping, clutching his temples, feeling a foreign thought flicker through his mind like a spark. He wrote down everything he remembered, every symbol, every whisper, every terror, on a set of scrolls he hid beneath the floorboards. He sealed them with wax and carved a final warning onto the lid. Do not think what we thought. The scrolls were never found. A year later, Theron vanished. Not dead. Not exiled. Vanished, just like the others. Some say he threw himself into the sea. Others say he wandered into the mountains and never returned. But a few whispered a darker possibility, that the first mind called him back. And the sanctuary, sealed once more, waited. Waited. Centuries later, when Roman engineers expanded Delphi's foundations, they discovered strange tremors beneath the ground, rhythmic, pulsing, almost like a heartbeat. One engineer wrote in his diary about hearing a low whisper in the stones, but his words were dismissed as madness. Yet if one listens closely, even today, beneath the ruins of the old temple, the ground still vibrates faintly, as if breathing, as if remembering. And people still vanish in the mountains around Delphi. Not many, just enough. So the question remains, what if consciousness, our thoughts, our ideas, our very sense of self, was never truly ours? What if we are only borrowing it? And what happens when the owner comes back to collect it? The Helican Circle claimed to discover the truth. And that truth erased them. Story finished.